Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer. The internet is back. Hopefully, this isn't garbage. Unlike last week at the end of the show, my router died. We've replaced things. We're back into it. And so, joining me this week, as always, once again, my co-host Tom. How you doing, buddy?
Hello, friends.
Tom himself has been reforged many times. You don't know that, but that's why he's such a cold, analytical player. He lost all the parts of his humanity that make him nice at the table, and now it's just all about the numbers. That's all it is. So there you go. That's what Tom paid for in the reforging. Also joining us, it is the one, the only Nice Painted Stormcast Man. It's Martin Orlando. How you doing, buddy? It's good to have you on the show.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
It's good to have you on the show, buddy. We're happy to have Martin on the show finally. Obviously, Martin does have quite a beautiful Stormcast army. Martin has been on Warhammer TV. He's all over the place. He runs events. So we're very glad to finally have him on. And I can think of few people who have spent more time grinding at understanding Stormcast, not just in all ways, like how to paint them, about them, the fluff, the lists. Like, you attack this from all sides, my friend.
Yeah,
that's why I wanted to have you on.
Thank you. I'm definitely all about trying to improve my proficiency at all aspects of the hobby. And Stormcast, as soon as they came out, or they were announced when Age of Sigmar was ready to launch, I knew that was an army for me. Usually I don't collect many Warhammer armies. Like, I've been in the hobby for about 15 years. I own one Lord of the Rings army. I own two 40k armies. And Stormcast was my second ever Warhammer fantasy / Sigmar army, as I had played High Elves for 5 years before that.
Okay.
And I've been with Stormcast pretty much ever since Age of Sigmar came out.
Gotcha.
You're speaking my language, Martin.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't even know what that means. One army for that long? Heresy. That's what that is. I've got... There's some options around me. Anyways, so I can't help myself. I love just adding stuff to armies. Try something new. So, but we're gonna get in to the new Stormcast today. We're gonna be deep diving on the Sacrosanct Chamber. Sigmar, as he is so wont to do, cracked open another chamber, unleashed his wizards and his tiger, kitty, dragon, dogs, and all that kind of stuff. It's crazy. There's goat, birds. It's all over the place, really.
The Thundercats?
He did unleash Thundercats, yes. They're on the move. So we're going to talk about all of that today for our feature segment. But of course, first, we're going to start with the news. And there's not a lot, so we'll burn through this quickly and get right into the Stormcast goodness. All right, Tom, what do we got? I know where you want to start. You want to talk about a hot rumor engine.
I do.
So do I. I'm in for this rumor engine, my friend, because I think you and I both know what this rumor engine is.
You don't mind if I weigh in too, do you?
I don't at all. All right, Martin, you're up first. What is this rumor engine?
Well, one thing's for certain, and you can usually tell whether they're painted or not painted. This one, because you can clearly tell it's painted, it must mean that they're further along in the design process for that faction, because we've seen pieces before which were unpainted, and that might give you a hint as to where the timetable is on it. The fact that it is painted, we've seen a few, I think, painted rumor engines over the past few weeks, so they might be leading to something that's a little closer to release than not. But the fact that we have like two what looks like chitinous tentacles or pylons, or maybe it's hair, going across the screen, it probably infers that it's a larger than your average infantry model. I don't want to guess faction, because the design work is probably a little too vague for me to make a prediction on anything. Like, is it Slaanesh? I don't want to say, because it looks a little too alien for me. I'm going to guess that this might have something to do a little bit more in the 40k range. Maybe something Dark Eldar, maybe something Eldar. Or maybe it's a new faction altogether. Like, we didn't know what certain things were for other rumor engines coming out and turned out to be something completely new, like Deepkin. Or my personal favorite, Blood Bowl mascot.
Sure. Always possible. Tom, what about you, buddy?
It's totally elves.
Oh, and why is it elves?
Because of the iconography, the curly iconography.
It looks fancy, therefore it must be elves.
That's absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
It has to be really small though because of those paintbrush strokes.
Yes. So this is a very zoomed in portion. You can tell because you can see like this is obviously edge highlighting around this thing, and like we are way zoomed in enough that they didn't notice this giant splotch. Yeah, exactly. Which has to be actually a micro splotch on the model, right? Like here it looks crazy, but as anyone who's ever painted something they thought looked really good and then taken a picture with like
I take it back.
High camera.
It's Slaanesh.
Yes, it's Slaanesh. Of course it's Slaanesh.
Yeah, it's Slaanesh.
What are we talking about? This is called Light and Dark is the name of the rumor. Where is Slaanesh right now, people?
Oh, they have titles.
Yes.
I didn't know they had titles.
Yeah. Do you know why I know this is Slaanesh?
Because that's the same exact thing that's cut into the designs of the larger claws of the Slaanesh models. They're chitinous claws. Oh, because it is.
No. If you look on the top, so move your cursor up, Vince.
Boop, boop, boop.
Yep, move it to the next chitinous panel over.
Boop.
No, other way.
Boop,
boop. Down. There you go.
Just give Tom the scream.
Shit, what is this?
That right there. It's Slaanesh.
Okay. You're saying because this is some kind of bulge? What is that? Is that what you're pointing at, or why?
It just looks like it belongs on a Slaanesh model. That's all I'm saying.
I see. It's absolutely Slaanesh. It's called Light and Dark. It has the markings that Slaanesh stuff has. Like if you look at the larger claws that are on the champions and the Alluruses and stuff, they have this same swoopy doop. This like this just do it Nike as was referenced by Sigmar and Son by the Dice Must Flow in the thing.
Yeah,
they called it Nike Alien, just do it. Which I agree would be Slaanesh's motto, by the way. Just do it. Why hold
whatever it is, just do it.
Yeah. Just do it. That's right. That is a very Slaanesh motto. So yeah, I mean it's Slaanesh. And I for one, I'll go a step farther and I'll say two things. One, it's either the new Fiend of Slaanesh. Because when they reinvent the Fiend of Slaanesh, it'll look like anything. Like it's not gonna be like its old ridiculous, stupid, crappy model, which was just the worst. Well, second worst. The worst, of course, being the old Keeper of Secrets. But, but that, or it's going to be a completely new Slaanesh thing. And yes, it's going to be a flying model too. Like this is holding something up. So there you go. Or not, or maybe not flying, but at least perched. I shouldn't say flying. I should say perched because that's what I really mean. There you go. All right. That's what it is. It's Slaanesh. Welcome the Dark Prince S into your heart. That's what I say. I, for one, welcome our Slaaneshi overlord as soon as he is here. So,
and I can't wait to smack it with Stormcast hammers.
I mean, it's
okay.
fine.
It wants to be smacked.
We welcome that. That's what feeds our engine. We want the pain. Side story: as I played another game with Slaanesh recently, it is as fun as Blood Tithe was the first couple times I experienced that, where it's like you win for losing. Just shoving your heroes forward and getting depravity points is so unbelievably rewarding. It's like your people die and you're like, whatever. It's just more points. Just more points, baby. Feed that depravity. It turns you into a sadomasochist simply by play. The rules make you a sadomasochist. So that's good design.
I watched a game at my local store. I was talking to some fans of the show and watching their game on Saturday, and they're playing a doubles game, and one of the players had like not been tracking his blood tithe. Like he had forgotten about it for like the other half of the table for the doubles game.
Rookie move.
And so we're like, it was wrapping up and looking bad for them. And we're like, hey, what about that? And he goes, oh yeah, well, how many units have y'all lost? And they start counting up, and he's like, 16 points. Okay, I'll summon two blood. He's like, I'll summon two bloodthirsters.
Sure.
Did he have two bloodthirsters?
Somebody in the shop did. So they're like, I'm on it. And somebody ran for their case. It's pretty fantastic.
Well, that was nice of them. All right. So that's the rumor engine. What else have we got?
So there's an article today
with a very obvious typing spelling error, which was funny to me in the graphic.
Helping. There
Yeah.
you go, Rob. Yeah, so yeah, they had suggested rules for how to do match play event stuff with AOS with all the optional rule systems, like battalions.
Sure. Yeah, that's fine. Yes, battalions are optional. Is that what you're pointing
No,
at?
they're not.
Yes,
no, they're
they are.
not.
Yeah, they are.
All rules are optional in a board game.
Like, look, the thing required to play this game, okay, and it's scaled down, and that's one of the reasons I love it. I do want to talk about this a little bit, okay? Because this was the best thing they could have published. They could have done a little more onto it, but like they didn't get at the core of the matter. The strength of this game is its modularity, and the fact that it is like literally, I agree with them. What you need to play this game in matched play is the war scrolls and the core rules, and that, like the points, like that's about it.
Right, but as they note in the article, that other stuff was balanced. The points were balanced with the other systems in mind.
That's fine. So, it doesn't matter. The game doesn't break down. It doesn't matter that it's balanced with all that in mind. You want it to be. That just means that as you keep layering, ideally the game remains balanced. That doesn't mean it plays exactly the same, regardless of which option you turn on. Why would it? That's not the point. The point is, if you're trying to introduce someone to the game, or you feel like having a very simple experience, or you're someone who doesn't like a lot of options, great. Just play it with that simple stuff. Nothing falls off the rails, right? Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
There was a tabletop minions video, I want to say a few months ago, or maybe in the, coming up into Soul Wars. I don't remember. But it was definitely from these past like half year. And that he said the cool thing about a board game, which makes it different from a video game, is that all rules in a board game are dependent on the people playing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're just playing with plastic miniatures on a gaming space. The rules all they're entirely dependent on what you want. And the way Age of Sigmar is designed, especially from not only as a game but also as a business, is that the core way to play Age of Sigmar is completely free.
Yes.
All of the experience that you want to add on top of that is not only optional, but I mean, like, I don't want to say, yes, it costs money, but like it's entirely at your own pace and the pace of everyone in your gaming group is what I'm saying.
And yes. And let me.
I would agree with that for open play. Sure.
I don't.
But not match play.
BS. I call hard BS on that. Though, so when Allegiance abilities came out, I would say it was 8 months before anybody in my group used a battalion, but used battalions or Allegiance abilities or artifacts or items in my like basement games, because they didn't want them. It was too many options for them to jump into. And you know what? The game still played fine. Everything worked because the game doesn't require that crap.
Right.
What it requires is those things interacting with each other, the war scrolls. That's it.
If I may just add, what matched play is wrapping in a little bow a bundle of rules which you and your opponent can use to create what is effectively the core competitive experience of Warhammer. Match play is not mandatory. Match play is just a bundle of rules.
It's a bundle of expectations, yes. Even more than rules. But, and what I would say is this, Tom. It's not that you're not putting your finger on nothing. Because I assume your point is things like battalions and allegiance abilities and that kind of stuff are kind of wrapped into the core expectations of certain armies.
Yeah. Or, the exact charts that you're getting your points on.
Again, that doesn't mean you need to use them. Who cares that they're on that same chart?
Well, that would be like saying, okay, so only half of your units are part of the core conceit of this.
No, you know what it's like? Army. You know what it's like, Tom?
What's that?
I'll say exactly what it's like. It's like they say the 20 times in the history of me role-playing with you for the past 30 years that you've went, these are the 3 races and the 4 classes you can pick from for this game.
I don't know about that.
I do, because it's in the same list, Tom. Okay? Like, the fact that,
the core thing about match play is, like, build an army for, blah, 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 establish, in the core rule book. I don't like. I disagree.
Maybe this deserves its own show.
It probably does.
What I would say is this, just as a closing note: The difference is that's a role-playing game. This is a tactical strategy game, and that you're in two completely different realms, as you are always want to identify. Is that like they are two completely different experiences with different expectations for the people coming to the table and the like. It's the same reason why we don't say that you're not allowed to bring Nagash to events anymore. Like having hard comps like that. Because that's what you're doing, is you're hard comping what people's options are if you're saying they can't take battalions.
Sure. Yeah. Yes. I'm saying you're constructing an event as a TO or as a match play experience in your basement. The two of you are deciding this is how we're going to structure it. And my argument is the wheels don't fall off the game. One, that's a low bar. And two, that the game still works. Now, I'll agree. There are and that's why I said I wish they had more nuance to that, because like in that things we'd recommend, my argument would be there are things that are an easier grab than others. Allegiance abilities, battalions are easier grabs than, say, realm rules. You know what I mean? Like, there is a level to this. And I wish they had almost talked about how you should stack the experience for somebody coming into it. Because I think you can further degrade that experience down. But the point is that, like, as long as all of the people participating in the experience are operating under the same constraints, and those constraints are made apparent, because the way the game's constructed, you can shrink it or expand it, and it stays harmonious. That's my argument.
And what I feel like you're doing is you're artificially cutting out like battalions out of a list of like, well, why don't we just cut out battle line units?
Okay.
But that's what I'm saying. You're arbitrarily cutting things out of the army building process.
Okay. I don't argue. Yes, of course this is arbitrary. That's the entire point. They're arbitrary optional rules. Yes.
But never mind.
This is for another show.
All right, let's move on. Anyways, that article's there. Go check it out.
We will argue about this later.
Sounds good. I liked how the guest kept us in line here. I appreciate that. Thanks, Martin. Martin, you're already doing wonderful, buddy. You're A+ for your performance so far in this show.
Thank you.
All right. What else did we have? Is there anything else in the news?
We have the rest of the Stormcast product finally showing up.
Yes.
Martin, I know you're excited about the Evos on Kitty Cat.
Yeah. I've played about 9 games so far with the new book. Sadly, when I played the first few games, 95% of the army was not available yet. But we were talking in our group that especially how I'm trying to improve as a gamer, because for the past like 3 2-day events I've been to, I didn't perform as well as I had liked. And not only that, I performed relatively inconsistently. So I've been trying to reevaluate how I play the game, especially since I'm lucky enough to have it in my local community, like the Southern New Jersey community. Some of the greatest Warhammer Fantasy players I think that ever were. And so they're like definitely hardcore tacticians who, regardless of what game system is in play, will know how to push models around on the table. And so I've been playing against different people in my group, trying to understand. It's like, okay, I think I've come up with a list. I want to figure out if this is right for me before I spend 11 weeks painting 20 models.
Sure.
And I think that especially with this stuff being staggered as it is, I've been able to get a good sense for how the Taurolon and the Dracolines play.
No, that's good. And we're going to dig. Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to dig way deep into that when we get into the feature segment. So I think that's all the news, right, Tom?
Indeed. Pick
of the week time. Bow, 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 bow. All right, Martin, you wanted to share some. You want to show some pages from the Gram.
Yes. Some of those I actually posted on Instagram that I would be on the show tonight. If those don't know, I have a following on Instagram, and I would like to spotlight some pages of friends who have definitely mentored me with my painting over the past year. How do I grab the screen?
So I've got it locked on you. So all you need to do is screen share is in the top left. There's a little green or white arrow in a green box. Just click that and then say, yes, you want to share.
Okay. Screen share. My entire screen share. All right. So first I'd like to spotlight. Can everybody see?
Oh, yeah. You're good, man.
All right. This is my friend Sam. Sam is a Nottingham local. He is a Golden Demon painter who has yet to play in a Golden Demon. Him and I just started talking back and forth one day when I commented on one of his pictures. And as you can see, he's definitely another Stormcast painter.
I can see why you like the guy.
Yeah. No, his Nagash is fantastic. I need to find his Nagash. Here we go. Yeah. He definitely follows the heavy metal style of
Yep, absolutely.
and he's always on Facebook, like Twitter, asking the different heavy metal painters. It's like for specific color recipes, and he passes them on to me. When I was over there in January, we basically just had spent like a day and a half just like painting with one another, and just like how I paint gold now is the way he paints gold, and so forth, like different inks and techniques, and I just really just look at that. Just this is he's definitely going to be happy in the morning, and he's trying to learn how to play Stormcast better, so he's going to like the main aspect of this show.
Well, good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Good.
And then there's Craftworldstudio. They might be a little more well known. This is a page run by a couple, Marco and Alexandra. They're more like just traditional like figure painters. Like they don't just paint Warhammer, though they did just pick up the Soul Wars box. This was a paste by Marco, and I was just really intrigued by how they painted stuff. And over the past year, especially trying to pick up how they highlight like metal and whatnot, like that's just incredible to me. There you go for you Bretonia lovers.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Always good to see a Man-at-Arms back in the mix.
Yeah, let me just find one more before I believe Alexandra painted this.
Oh,
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure what miniatures range this is from. Maybe it's for something new. But yeah, those were the two people I really wanted to give a shout out to. I recommend you go follow them on they're all over social media. And trust me, with the quality they make, it's definitely not hard to find.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, that was my pick of the week.
Nice. I will link both of those. If you just hit stop share, there you go. You're good.
All right.
I will link both of those down below so people can go check them out.
And my page.
Send me yours. I will link Martin's as well. Absolutely, as well as Martin's Twitter, so you can follow him on there. Although, what's the story behind your Twitter name?
So CV Consigliere is my Twitter name.
Do you like help people with resumes?
CV. I just started painting the Celestial Vindicators at the time, and I think around that time when I think it was around the time when the second Stormcast Eternals book came out. And when the second Stormcast Eternals book came out, I was playing at the Games Workshop in Philadelphia, and I was in there pretty regularly back when it was in Philadelphia. It has since moved away, and I have not been able to get up there as often as I'd like. But I was playing against somebody with the Celestial Vindicators Battalion, which was back then the Hammer Strike Force with 3 units of Paladins, and I was just destroying my opponent. And someone came in, was just like a casual onlooker, just a friend of ours, and so looked at the table, and it's like Sigmar has you in his pocket like so many nickels and dimes. It was just a quote from The Godfather.
Right.
And then that next day, I posted on my Twitter, on Instagram, someone photoshopped for me. There's a picture of Marlon Brando, like from The Godfather, and then over Robert Duvall's head is just a turquoise Stormcast helmet. And someone made that for me, and I was like, okay. And I got on Twitter around the same time. So Consigliere is The Godfather's advisor. So I'm Sigmar's personal advisor.
Yes, at my house when I was growing up, The Godfather had its own special shelf on the mantle with like candles and stuff beside it. I know the movie well. That's not a joke.
Vince is not joking.
Tom has seen what I'm describing. That
sounds good to me.
It's 100% real. All right, that's real talk, folks. Okay, Tom.
With a name like yours, indeed.
Tom.
So I'm gonna spruik Sigmar and Son. They have a wonderful show going on for those that haven't checked it out. I dropped in with Mark and Greg this last week, and we did a show on list building and thinking about it's just an introduction to list building, kind of 101 and things. I mean, 101 is probably not the best description because I wanted to focus on talking about what you need to think about when looking at building a list and kind of what are those elements that you're going to want to have. And I disentangled some of the normal language that we use of like a hammer and anvil and stuff like that, and those types of language, because I feel like you're looking more for capabilities than you are specifically like roles. Anyway, so I would encourage you guys to check it out. We'll have the link below.
Nice. Yes, it's a great show they do, and it's a good rapport. It's fun. The father and son interaction there is super fun. So I'll link the specific show he's referencing down below. My pick of the week, you've got two pick of weeks for the price of one, because I am going to recommend first the Cubic Shenanigans podcast.
Yeah.
Of course, which is great. Out of the guys from Milwaukee and all this, they host it, and of course, Lord of Death on Twitter, and he knows the army, knows Nagash quite well. Beat the tar out of my Iron Jaws. He was my loss at NashCon. Very nice guy. He had Tyler Emerson, Scrubby, and Wells on. They talk a lot about a whole wide range of things in AOS too, and then flip the script around and. I'm going to Scrubby and Wells put out his first podcast in about 9 months, and he's talking to Lord of Death. So they basically went on each other's podcasts. So if you're looking for 4 or 5 hours of solid AOS 2 discussion, this is a good way to go. Also, if you're looking to commit suicide, you just take a drink every time Tyler says the word bias in the podcast, and you will be dead by hour like 3. So, don't do that. Please don't do that. That will be very dangerous. Don't drink in podcast, kids. But seriously, it's funny. Okay. So I'll link both of those pods down below. It's great stuff. Cubic Shenanigans is a really fun podcast. They're great dudes. And what I like about it is both of them that are on there, their personalities are very different. And one is like Lord of Death is a much more
competitive.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, like I don't mean that in an insulting way, right? Like that sounds like
I'm saying it.
It's fine. Player than his podcasting partner, but they approach it from very good angles, and I love it. I love watching they're listening to their interaction. Watching's the wrong words. Podcast, listening to their interaction. So it's really great, no matter where you are in the hobby. I highly recommend it. So there you go. Okay. That being said, gentlemen, let's turn to some hobby time. As you both seem to be feverishly working on something, what's the something you're working on? Martin, what's on your desk, buddy?
I am working on the finishing touches for the white cloth, red cloth, and black cloth on my first unit of 10 Sequitors. I don't know if the web camera will be able to pick up anything, though I have been posting them, of course, on my Instagram page.
Way too bright.
Yeah, way too bright. Is that showing up at all? Probably not.
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. Like I said, you can find this progress on both my Twitter and Instagram pages. As I try and post my hobby updates at regular intervals, get feedback from people, talk about my work with other people who are working on their Soul Wars boxes. So my first unit of Sequitors will be all from the Soul Wars box, and then my second unit will be from the kit coming out on Saturday.
Yes, nice. And we'll talk about that kit in a minute. Is that kit the one with the Ghostbuster girl in it?
Yes.
That's what I thought. Yeah, it's a beautiful model. I need to find somebody at the store who's buying that kit and just punch them and take that model out of their box.
Would you like it? I'll mail it to you.
We'll talk.
Okay.
Tom, what about you, buddy? What are you working on?
Well, right now I'm putting some Canary together.
Yeah, now we're talking.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of fun. I got most of my base, not all, but almost all of my base coat on my first unit of 30 witches done.
What happened to Terrain Tom?
And then this week I got this done.
See,
there we go.
Terrain Tom's still around.
And then I did. What else did I do this week? I got this one done.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Nice.
Bunch of 3D printed terrain. What else did I get done this week? And then I need to do a pour of resin on that other one that I haven't finished yet. But yeah, and then I started green stuffing my Warlord for Havoc.
Using the avatar of Yniad, or whatever her name is.
That's
we
all.
can see what it is. You're literally holding it up right now, Tom.
Yeah, but it's covered in green stuff. You never know
Not
what I'm holding
that
up.
much. I can see, everybody can see what it is.
Anyways, I'm working on my Warlord for Havoc. And so, I'm diving into the world of green stuffing, and it's been exciting.
Sure, absolutely. All right. So for myself, it's mainly been Gen Con prep. I finished up a single model I just painted for fun, which I didn't bother to share because it was just a quick fun job. Although you'll see part of it in the hobby cheating that goes up this week. But like I painted a guy that I've wanted to do for a while, the Lord or the Free People's Free Guild General on Horsey Horse. That dude. I liked him and I want him in my Greywater Fastness army. So there he goes. I also put together a second piece of terrain. It probably doesn't show right there. It's behind people's, like it's behind your faces. But trust me when I tell you, there is another piece of terrain right here. I did a second piece of terrain.
I don't believe you.
It's
Pixar
true.
didn't happen.
It's unfortunately, it's hidden back there. I don't
Pictures
know.
are coming.
Nope, can't
Probably
reach it.
not.
Okay,
Probably not.
nah, I don't. It's fine. And then I'm just packing.
Someday, Vince will have a real table.
Someday, I mean, it could
Real
happen.
terrain on it.
Look, man, that cardboard terrain has served me well for 5 years. So, anyways,
I'm gonna have to next time I'm there, just bring one of my extra fat mats so that you guys actually have like a real board to play on.
I do need to.
So you know the edges of the actual board.
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Just over here, this cardboard thing is the edge of the world.
Yeah, you
right
know how
here.
many times it's come into a problem? This many. All right. So, at any rate, and everything obviously had to get packed up for Gen Con. So, because I had to get all the teaching stuff ready, so I finished up prepping all that crap. And
Do we have time to talk about how Gen Con has changed? Because the last time I went to Gen Con, the first time I went to Gen Con was the year about 2014, the year before AOS came out. And when I went, I found it to be very much like a marketplace where up and coming like companies or individuals who wanted to like sell like a board game or have like a creative space to socialize and play like Pathfinder or D&D or Magic or something like that had a place. But like when I went specifically as like a miniatures person, I went to shop and I found interesting miniatures. But beyond that, I didn't really get much out of it.
sure.
How, would you say it's changed or like?
No, it's just not really a miniatures convention. There's stuff there. Don't get me wrong. I'm excited.
Yeah, I
There's
mean,
things
like
Yeah.
Adepticon is for wargaming.
Right.
Okay.
Gen Con is more for gaming generically. I think they have another 30-person AOS event this year. It's just a one-dayer.
I know Oscar's going. Good luck, Oscar.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to make it this year. I might come next year, actually. My hope is actually that Gen Con will kind of have some opportunities to have the AOS presence grow over the next couple of years. I would say this. For it being as big of a convention as it is, it's surprising that, like we don't have a larger Warhammer presence.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously, Privateer Press has a huge sort of footprint there. They run one of their big painting competitions there. Basically, the second biggest one behind Lock and Load, as far as I know. Somebody could correct me, but I believe that to be the case. At least in the States, there's also another huge one up in Canada, so maybe that one's bigger. But it's huge for Magic. It's huge for board games. It's huge for RPGs. If you've ever been in the room where people are playing D&D or Pathfinder, I mean, there's massive rooms dedicated to that. It's less for miniatures. But the bright side is it does have miniature games of all time. Like there's more time tables ripping around the clock. Like most everything is there. So that is to be appreciated.
Yeah. It's just a matter of time. That's all I'm saying. We'll take over.
Yeah. It's a great experience. I mean, I've been to Gen Con. I'd went a few times off and on, but I haven't missed since 2006. I'd went a few times before that. And so this will be my sort of 12th year in a row going, and that sounds right. I love it. It's something I really look forward to. But I'll be leaving very early tomorrow morning to get there basically right as it opens. So, gentlemen, let's talk about Stormcast, shall we?
For Sigma.
That's right. So the chamber has been opened, and the Sacrosanct are here. And
Man, boy, oh boy, are they good.
yeah, though there we go. Let's wrap it up. Let's give the overview. Martin, what's
Wrap it up.
Yeah,
Hot take. We're done.
Show's over. Thanks, everybody. There you go. There's your insight. It's good, yo. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Martin, give us your overview, man. What do you feel? What do you think about the new Sacrosanct specifically, and perhaps some of the new chamber
Sacrosanct,
rules?
elite. So you'll notice that all of the new stuff tends to have reasonably excellent stats, especially even for Stormcast across them, but you'll get less of them. So it's an elite army within an elite army. So I don't want to compare it to Grey Knight.
Say that?
We'll save the argument for later with the models. Keep going. This is the overview portion.
Yeah. My overview for those just coming over from 40K, it's almost comparing Grey Knights to Space Marines. There's a lot of magic where there was no magic before. Building a Sacrosanct army will allow you to hang even with the magic-heavy armies and be able to dominate in a phase where you were previously non-existent. There's tools that you have access to which allow you to build overall, spilling from just Sacrosanct into a wider army, which gives you a more adaptable army than ever before. And I think the army is better for it.
All right, rock on. Tom, what's your feelings, buddy? Or your overview? What's your 40,000 foot?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that they are some of the most aggressively costed units that we've seen GW do for Stormcast. And I don't agree the low model count army. Pound for pound, you're getting basically as many Sequitors as you're getting Liberators. Because if you buy a block of 20, they're 100 for 5, same cost as Libs. For Adjudicators, Castigators are you get 6 for 160 instead of 5 for 160. So I would say that they are the same or even cheaper in some cases, like in Castigators. Even though people don't feel like Castigators are cheaper, they are. They just don't get the shock bow. They don't get the special bow on the champion. I just love everything about it. The heroes are a little bit more pricier. Your foot heroes start at 140. Lots of mounted options all the way up to double casters, lots of wizards. They are built for the new edition is what I would say.
Sure. Yeah, I certainly agree with that.
We're just talking about the new chamber, Gary. I agree. 100 point
Hi, Gary.
Gabriel is pretty hot.
Yeah, in referencing the new stuff only is when we're giving this appraisal. So here's my appraisal. They bent. All right. So
Vince, did they touch you somewhere?
Yeah, real bad. Right in my Archeon. No, yeah, they bent. Look, no, they're good. They're good to really good. I don't think it's not like we've got to keep in mind the shades of what we're talking about here. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that they're really
good.
They're really good for their points. And here's my advice to people making a heavy investment in Sacrosanct. Okay. I'm going to say this right up.
Get ready. Points changes are coming in a year.
Enjoy your year. All right.
I know I will.
Squeeze all the juice from the berry of 2018 and early 2019 as you can. Okay. Because
so you're saying I need to just switch over and do Stormcast this year, Vince?
If you want to get the sweetest juice out of that berry, now's the time to squeeze, folks, because it ain't never going to be better than this. Because come 2019, whap, that's what's going to happen.
You're saying the hammer's coming.
Yeah. Because over time, people are going to be like, oh yeah, those were too efficient. It really was. That's what's going to happen. Sorry. Your Sequitors will get more expensive. That is going to happen. Okay.
And if it doesn't,
I will be then it didn't happen because everything else in the game got cheaper, which I'm also okay with. If literally everything else gets cheaper and they still remain the same, cool.
So you're saying they're too efficient.
Yeah, but again, I don't want to make it like I'm on about this.
I mean, I could provide a counter argument and say Sequitors are bad.
you're out of your mind, but we'll talk about that in a minute.
I'm not going to say that though.
Yeah, I don't know well.
You would be wrong.
Right. So, but like my argument would be that they're very efficient, they're very good. But again, that's within the shades of where we currently are now. They are not like unbeatable or super broken. I didn't say broken, I said bent. There's a difference. And and the reality is that the fact like something being pretty good, okay? So something's pretty good. Pretty good can still be beat pretty regularly. And there's lots of pretty good things in the game right now. Right? They're not alone in being pretty good. That's what I'll say.
Sure. Yeah, they're not an S-type army.
No, definitely not. They are not like some S-tier thing that's just like totally sideways and perpendicular. And this isn't Vanguard Wing. It's not, old school Hammer Strike. It's not.
But it kind of feels like Vanguard Wing.
It shouldn't. It really shouldn't, because that relied on really hinky garbage to win. Sorry. It did.
Yeah, it's the difference between, well, I'm using an army within the Age of Sigmar, and like I think what was your analogy in the older show, where it's like they're using their own rules while everyone else is playing Age of Sigmar.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean,
that's what we don't want.
You're saying for Vanguard Wing, yes.
Yeah.
And that was the case then.
There's obviously been some S tiers. They're not in that. I wouldn't even entertain that argument. I'm not even going to go down that line. And by the way, none of this has to do anything with the fact that like of Jack's win, right? Like that was kind of mentioned in the comments. I want to be very clear. I don't think this because of Jack's win. I think Jack's.
No, he got smacked around by him.
Whatever. Like I don't like. I think when. Yeah, like you have to think about the players, like people who take things to the top tournaments, and you see a lot of their names and they happen to be piloting Stormcast. It is what it is, right? So I do think on the whole, to make a quick broader statement, is that I really mean this. There is a lot of pretty good stuff in the game right now. Like I could go down a list and say like Nurgle and Legions and Nighthaunt and
Doc, they're all pretty good.
Doc and I would even include like Idneth and Stormcast and all this. And there's a big list of like pretty good things. I will argue that in the world of AOS 2, the gulf between the haves and the have-nots has widened. Okay?
Yeah.
There's a big group of things that are all pretty good and highly competitive, but there's a lot of stuff that fell down. And it's like, it's going to be much harder for that to cross the chasm. Not impossible, but harder. So, anywho, there you go. Okay. So let's get into the units, guys. Shall we?
We've been talking about how bent they are. Let's talk about
those Sequitors and why they're super bent. All right, here we go. All right, no, Tom, so who wants to start off with Sequitors?
Martin.
Yeah, Martin,
right.
Would you like to take us through Sequitors?
All right, so a casual observer will notice very similar stats to Liberators, but with a bit of an improvement in that they wound on 3s if you're taking them with the mauls. So that's already like you're looking at, that seems pretty good. And then you notice the fact that they're 2 in every 5, which does not include the unit champion, may take the equivalent of Grand Hammers, which get many Blight King unmodified 6s. You can't even debuff it against demons or Nighthaunts. Do D3 hits. So it's like that's pretty decent, but that's only two factions it works against.
And they do 2 wounds a pop with make 1 Ren base.
Right? Yeah. Just like the Grand Hammers. And then you have Etheric Channeling, which every combat phase you may choose to reroll all failed hits or all failed saves.
So good.
So you're suddenly looking at and there's a condition where they can become battle line. So you're like, oh no. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's not the half of it. Like, you alluded to this, but yes, you get 2 per 5 for the Grand Hammers. Your champion can always choose a Grand Hammer, which means that if you run a unit of 10, 5 of those 10 are going to have Grand Hammers.
And the other 5 are going to be rerolling all of their saves.
Yes. And the champion, or not the champion, the one general on Griff Charger can turn on, for a command point, both of their abilities. So they can be souped up that way and turn on both the reroll saves and the reroll hits from spending a command point. Alternatively, if you're in Cleansing Flanks, which we'll cover later, they can have reroll hits and reroll wounds turned on by a spell. Their reroll hits turned on by a spell so that they can spend the reroll all wounds or reroll all saves.
Yes.
To be, so they have, in that instance, reroll all hits, wounds, and saves. They're really good. They're really good.
Yeah.
And they look great.
Yeah, they're beautiful looking
models. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, when you look at it, the fact that they're I think their strength lies in that versatility, right? They're 120 for 5 as opposed to 100 for 5 on Libby's. They can still fill the battle line role as long as you're in Stormcast. And
as long as they load Arcanum as general.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. An excellent extra point. Thank you. Which is fine.
We'll talk about that later.
Sure. They can fill that role, and which I don't think that's a huge problem, but we'll get to that. And they have an ability to flip offense, flip defense. And as you mentioned, it's pretty easy to turn them on both. They just synergize so incredibly well with the rest of what Stormcast want to do, right?
And if you buy them in Horde, you can get 20 for 400, so those are the same cost as Libby's.
Yep.
Right, but then there's only 20 of them.
Yeah,
in
but
one unit.
Sure, and 20 of them are, 20 of them are 40 wounds that with basically one support character, right? One who's somewhere near them. They can be on rerollable 3-up saves. Right?
Yes.
That's a tough thing to chew through unless you just spew mortal wounds. Right? Rerollable 3s, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. As saves go. The fact that it's just straight reroll, it ain't too shabby. So, but they can also flip the script, and as Tom mentioned, with those 5, people wielding the big smashy weapons, they can shock you. And when if you're in the Cleansing Phalanx, or they suddenly flip the script, they can, when they need to, turn around and suddenly hit something with, a fair amount of teeth. They're not like a true hammer, in the truest sense of the word. They're not like Evos on Dracos. We'll talk about those guys later. They're not like just hot tiger death running around the battlefield, but they'll do the work. They're a great grinding unit that it does exactly what it's supposed to do. They're an excellent example. What you would want them to do is sit on a point and be able to hold it and kill the thing that they're fighting. They will do that quite well. In fact, they're incredibly well built to do that exact thing, right? It's rare I see such an exact combination of purpose, right, and build, purpose and rules coming together into such a sharp point. The shout out to Rob, who's in the chat, who pointed out that the rerolls before modifiers can hurt them. I mean, yeah, sure, but high rend will always be a challenge for Stormcast in general, right? Things with huge rend is one of the things that shreds through them. That's reality.
It's a thing.
Yeah. The point being is that if you roll that, particular number before all the bonuses before all the modifiers are counted in, you don't get to re-roll it, and then it just ticks to a failure, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. It's not an insurmountable thing, is what I would say. So, yeah. Final thought on Sequitors. Big thumbs up.
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
They are my new favorite unit in Stormcast. I know that everybody likes the Dracolines, but I really like the Sequitors. They're just so efficient, and they can be whatever you need them to be. That's what I love about them, is they can be what you need them to be when you need them to be that thing.
Yeah.
And yes, somebody pointed out, don't forget about mortal wounds. Yeah, sure. I mean, yes, they're weak to mortal wounds. Most things in the game are weak to mortal wounds, but that has classically been a Stormcast challenge, right? Is that there's not a lot of mortal wound protection floating around.
And we should add to the overview, that hasn't really changed with the new stuff.
Yep. Okay. So next up, if we're talking about the new stuff, shall we talk about Evocators in their two forms? We have obviously our normal footy foot Evocators, and we have our Kitty Cat Riders, Evos on Celestial Dracoline.
Yes.
So these are obviously our Sacrosanct Paladin versions, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Let's see. Tom, why don't you walk us through?
Yeah, so they're like other paladins. They're and by the way, when I say paladins, like they don't actually have the paladin keyword, so don't think that they do. Instead they have the wizard keyword and a new corpuscant. There you go. Sorry. Keyword as well. No idea what that means. It's not the redeemer keyword. It's the one that matters.
For the narrative, they are like battle companies.
There you go.
Redeemer is a type of organization within Stormcast. Corpusant is their version of the Paladin Chamber within the Sacrosanct.
Thank you. The for the Evocators, they're 3 wounds, 4 up save, 5 move, 8 bravery. They have basically, they either dual wield a blade and a staff. If they do, they're like 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, make 1 rend, 1 damage. Otherwise, they can do like a grand stave. They can, and if they do the grand stave,
3 attacks, 3 and 3, no rend, 2 damage.
Yeah, which like I really like the rend too much to swap that out. But anyways, yeah. Well, I mean, I guess you could, yeah. And then you can. So the big thing is that they're wizards as a unit, and so that's one of the things that they do.
Like blue hordes.
Like blue hordes. Only you have to have at least 2 models for them to be a wizard. They can't cast any other spells but an their special spell Empower. If they do, they choose either a Redeemer or another Sacrosanct unit wholly within 12 inches. When they cast that unit gains reroll wounds. Now, there's a lore within the FAQ clarified that they get one of the spell lores within...
lore of Invigoration.
Yep.
The lore of Invigoration, which is the Buffy lore. The buffing lore, rather.
No, I like to think of it as the Buffy lore. I enjoy that.
The Buffy lore, yeah. There you go. So they can buff with that line. So if they don't want to give them reroll wounds, they can give them like +1 to wound, or they could give like reroll to charges, or another spell from that line. They get an unbind, which is nice because it gives you a combat unit that's out in the field to unbind. And their big kind of punchy ability is their Celestial Arc Lightning. So instead of using like Star Soul Maces at the end of combat after they've attacked, the first thing that they get is they get to reroll all save rolls of 1 against missile weapons that target the unit, which why not? Sure, let's give them some more defense. But they also gain the ability at the end, after the unit's attacked, you kind of pick an enemy unit within 3 inches. It doesn't have to be the one you attacked.
Yep.
And then you're going to roll 2 dice per model Evocator model. And
Evocators.
Evocator, there we go. I don't know. They're kind of evocative. Evocators. And after that, they get 2 dice per model, and it's going to do on every 4 up of those. So like 5 dice base, or I'm sorry, 5 models base, 10 dice. Every 4 up is going to be a mortal wound. So on average, if they're undamaged, they'll spit out 5 mortal wounds.
Yeah. There's a couple really relevant things about the difference between this and the Star Soul Mace. Okay.
Yes. It can miss now.
Well, sure. I mean, the Star Soul Mace can miss. Yeah, you can roll a 1. Okay, that's fine. I don't care about that too much. Like, let's talk about why this is just patently better. It's patently better because, so I'll highlight the downside. As you lose models, you lose this mortal wound capability, right?
Right.
That's
like
true.
You do with Star Souls.
Well, not true, because with Star Soul Maces, if you've got 2 of them in a unit of 5, you got 3 bodies to lose before you actually lose Star Soul capability.
Right, but then you're losing attacks. This you have attacks and mortal wounds that you're spitting out.
I agree. I'm just, if we're talking about raw mortal wound generation, right? I mean, that's what I'm comparing here. Okay. However, Star Soul Maces have to be able to actually like hit the thing they're mortal wounding.
Be within 1 inch is what you're trying to.
That would be correct. Yes. You must be within the weapon range of the Star Soul Mace. These guys don't care where they are, where the unit's strung out, how big it is, how many there are, where they are, etc. Right? Or they cares how many there are, but it doesn't like if you wreck one kitty cat into the corner of a thing
Or
the
one
corner
to
of a
foot
unit,
guy. Yeah.
sure. Right. And then just by happenstance, your pile in, maybe you get the second kitty in, but you got 4 more kitty cats strung out back behind. Right. You still get 12 dice.
Yep.
Yeah. And those 12 dice don't have to necessarily be on that thing you got the 2 kitty cats into. It could errantly be on a hero who's behind the line, but within 3 inches of the forward kitty cat. Right.
Yep.
And you could slam it at that unit and then just go like, bazap, and whack
it lets you multi-charge anything basically without fear because they get to do enough damage to 2 units before either unit gets to counterattack.
Right. It reminds me of the shield throw on the old school shield throw on Volkites,
where you could throw every shield in the unit and sort of target accordingly.
They can throw every shield in the unit at any unit that one of the models ends within a half inch of. Yeah,
right.
Which is
exactly. So it's a very potent ability, and for me. So what the cost on these guys is, if I remember, what
200.
Yeah, 5 footies for 2 and 3 kitty cats for 300.
So the difference with the kitty cats, by the way, what Vince is tapping into, because we'll just cover this now. The difference with the kitty cats, they're 5 wounds instead of 3 per model. You only get 3 models for 300 points. The kitty cats are just monsters on 3 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1 rend, 1 damage. So just a lot more -1 rend attacks.
Well, and D3 damage on the charge.
And they're movement 12 and reroll failed charge rolls.
Yes, they reroll failed charge rolls, and on the charge, the kitty cats are D3 wounds instead of 1, and they're 12-inch moves. So I mean, they're just they turn these guys into super mobile. So you lose mortal wounds in the arc, and you gain choppy claws.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Like all told, the Evos on Celestial Dracoline just aren't going to be able to generate as many potential mortal wounds, right? Because you're probably not going to have as many models as would be potential of 5 for 200 versus 3 for 300. I mean, the math is pretty straightforward there, right? That being said, oh, by the way, don't forget the Evocators on Celestial Dracoline also do the -1 bravery thing. Right.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but there are going to be a lot of armies out there that don't care about that, especially Death, Seraphon.
I don't disagree. There's plenty that don't, but it's always nice to just have a little bit of bravery subtraction can be a relevant thing. It is,
especially on something like Daughters, that it can bump them off of that magic 2 damage from Mindraiser.
Yep, because it's not like when making battle shock tests. It's just subtract 1 bravery, period. Right?
Yep.
So you knock them straight down the second you come within 3 inches of them.
As an aside, if you have one of the names or one of the traits for the heroes on Dracolines is to give +1 to wound to Dracoline units nearby.
Mm-hmm.
And so these guys can all be wounding on 2s pretty easily as well.
Are you sure it's not +1 to hit?
Maybe it is +1 to hit. I thought it was +1 to wound.
+1 to wound. I believe the only item or trait or whatever in the book is the Celestial Blade spell and Aventus Fire Strike's command ability.
That is definitely true. In that it is those 2 do give that. Do to mount traits real quick. But right here. You're right. It's +1 to hit.
Okay, so they're 2s and 3s.
So they're hitting on 2s. Wounding on 3s instead of so they can get to 2s and 2s is the point.
Sure. Yeah, but they could just also cast Celestial Blades on themselves if they don't feel like casting Empower.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, they can. Sure. They can get to 2s and 2s.
Yeah.
I will say openly, I am incredibly biased toward the Evocators on Dracoline because I feel like they fill a very major role, which is speed kill.
A mobile hammer.
Yes, I've been using proxies of them. Unfortunately, my Dracoths, not that I don't dislike Dracoths, I've just been I've been using the same units for about a little over a year, and I can't wait to I use the Dracoths as proxies for the Dracolines because they're the same base size. And I've been loving the Dracolines so far.
Yeah, the models are a little bit lackluster to me as well for the Dracoths. Like I don't know, like they're very static compared to the kitty cats. That are very in pounce.
There's always new hotness syndrome. We got to have it.
True.
Yeah, I mean, I love the kitty cats because I feel like Stormcast, if you don't have, you have your lightning prayer guy, your new translocation thing, right? I mentioned this before, but I feel like Stormcast can have a late game mobility problem. What I mean by that is like once they bring their units down, you can't rely on all foot dudes floating around at 4 inches. And if somebody sees that you've got, a dude who's going to be translocating, what's that, translocation? Is that what it's called now?
Yeah.
Is that what new lightning
Translocating.
it's called?
Yes, you are in the act of translocating.
Sure. That can be like a pretty high potential target for somebody to take out. Yeah. So that way you're basically, 4 and 5 inch or whatever foot walker dudes aren't going anywhere quick. Right. And the obvious benefit there is those kitty cats remain fast as all get out all the time because they move 12 base, they reroll charges. It's fairly easy given your chamber or something like that to allow them to run in charge or with Mr. Toots, right? So there's both. You can use a chamber or you can use Mr. Toots to let him run in charge.
No, Mr. Toots retreat in charge. Yeah.
Mr. Toots
you can do both.
He does.
You can charge even if you ran and / or retreated this turn.
Yes, exactly. Mr. Toots is by the way, I'm talking about the Knight Heraldor for those who don't know what Mr. Toots is. I suppose I should use somewhat proper names. But anyways, I love these dudes. I think they're great. I think they're an absolute hammer. I think they're a super hammer. I think they're the hammer's hammer. Like if they're the type of hammers that hammers go get to hammer other hammers. So I dig them. I think they do, again, exactly what they should be doing.
I'm buying 2 boxes next Saturday.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely understandable. Okay. So now let's talk about something that let's talk about some losers for a moment quickly. Can we talk about Castigators?
Yeah.
Not to hate on them too hard, but I feel like there was a lost opportunity there because in their narrative they have crossbows with bomb arrows charged. Yes, bomb arrows, like true Legend of Zelda style bomb arrows charged with Dracoth breath, and Dracoth breath does mortal wounds. So they took something which could have potentially been legendary and turned it into Rend 2 damage 1.
Yep. So, Castigators are 3 for 80. Right?
Yep. 6 for 160.
Yep, 6 for 160. They're 2 wounds apiece, 4 up save, 5 inch move. Pretty standard foot bow guys. Their actual shoot is an 18 inch range shot with 1 attack on 3s and 3s, neg 1 damage. But then they have their own channeling choice, right? Where they can either choose to reroll hit rolls of 1 or increase their rend by 1, which by the way, I haven't done the actual math on that, but I've got to imagine in any case, except somebody on like a 6 up save, it's a better choice to do the rend. Although I haven't mathed that out, but that's my instinct. Because rend.
Well, the key is you can get both of those though. Like right with the right general, like you can turn both of them on.
Absolutely. In general, I'm trying to look at these without like needing to pour too much onto them, right? Like thinking of them more in the void.
Yeah.
The only funny thing about these, and so Gary, I Gary mentioned this, like, and it's so funny. I was just about to mention the same thing. The only advantage that I like about them is that they are only 80 points, and they're like an interesting round out for a couple of options. If you have absolutely nothing else,
if you don't want to take endless spells, but have points left over.
Because like Gryph-hounds, which were your magic like go-to, went to 140 for 6.
Yeah.
Like
these guys just don't do enough. I don't know what they do. The shooting isn't that long range. Doesn't remove that much. Like, yay for pretty good rend. Like on math, 3 of these guys do like a damage.
So you know where they missed the boat on this, by the way? These should have been battle line if.
Maybe. I don't think they need more. There's a fair amount of that already. I just think we should have changed these around some to be, doing cool shooting giant grenade bombs. Like they should have acted differently in some way. They just feel like uninteresting.
Yeah, they don't feel exciting. They feel like just a regular unit.
Yeah, I would less than. I don't like even the fact I'm getting basically 1 more for the same price. I'm not sure I like these guys anymore.
Jacob, I agree. I agree. It would be a really cheap battle line, and that's why it would make them interesting. Because they're not an overwhelming unit. That's the point.
Sure.
Like, it would give you an option to go and short your battle line.
Sure.
And because traditionally in Storm class, it's not been an issue because your battle line are just a bunch of like Judicators or whatever. And so it gives Stormcast an option, even though they are less than stellar in what they are at their heart, like of what they're doing. It actually gives them a unique build option, I would say.
I don't know. For me, man, the issue is the 18-inch range versus the 24 on Judy's.
Oh,
that
sure,
6 inches is
sure.
the biggest deal in the world.
Yeah.
Like, begin puns and jokes, but nonetheless, I just feel like the difference between an 18-inch shooting weapon and a 24-inch shooting weapon is massive.
Yeah, I agree with that. And what I would say is that these guys, I think you're only ever going to see them in the one battalion. I'm blanking on what it's called.
Soul Strike Brotherhood.
Soul Strike Brotherhood. There you go. I think Soul Strike is the only one that you're going to see them in. What Soul Strike does is, and we'll talk about this later, but it allows them basically to get 2 shots and they double their output. And a lot of people were talking about like drop. Originally, they were talking about like if you need to take out Nagash, drop like 3 like.
Well, let's just hold on. Let's move directly to the ballista because this is a good way to set this up.
Yeah, we'll talk about the towns in the separate thing.
So, Martin, walk me through this because you were about to go into the ballista. So, Martin, take us through take us through our Stormcast war machine, the Celestar ballista.
Yeah.
Which is competing for the same space.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you look at a war machine and you think about where Stormcast used to be, because we had a Lord Ordinator for months and months. We were like, oh well, we have to ally in war machines to utilize him. Well, all of a sudden you can. It's just that the war machine seems to be. I don't know what it really wants to do. I mean, I see people taking advantage of it a lot because it's 100 points, but you can have a single shot, which is 3s, Rend 2 damage 1, or you can rapid fire 4 shots, 5s, 3s, Rend 2 damage 1. But whenever this scores a hit, you inflict D6 hits instead of 1, like the Judicator unit champion bow.
Yeah.
And okay, like you can,
yeah. So it's the same weapon. It says 2 different modes of fire, right? Long range is the 36 inches, 1 shot. Short range is the 18 inches, 4 shots on 5s.
I mean, like you can utilize synergies. Like this is open to a decent amount of synergies between battalions and the character, mainly the Lord Ordinator, in that you can get some interesting damage output potential. And the ballista itself is only 100 points, but just personally, from my perspective, maybe this is just the richness of the book offering so many builds that I've already found something that fits my play style, and the ballista simply isn't a part of it. But I'm looking at the points investment to get the interesting damage outputs. Like, you take it from mediocre to interesting, but you're not in a territory where you're like, this thing is incredible. So, and when you're glut for choices where you have like easily identifiable things which are in the good territory, if you have to do a lot of work to take something from mediocre to interesting, I mean, I'm not really sold.
Right.
But some people are, and it's a decent amount of firepower that you can surprise people with. So I can understand why you'd want to take it in certain armies, but I don't see myself personally taking them.
Yeah, I'm not sure they're not more interesting as allies for other armies in order than they are as yeah. Like I've seen a lot of people talking about the Stormcast gun line, as a thing. I don't see it. I don't understand. Like, I'm not saying, by the way, that's not a statement that like people won't try it. People will try it. I don't understand why you would use shooting in the current meta. Like, almost as a rule, I would not build an army around shooting in the current meta. There are so many hard counters in existence to shooting right now that like I don't know what you're on about. Like, what are you aiming at? What's your best case here? What are you shooting down?
Yeah.
Between
Nagash is the answer.
Again, but that requires in this very specific skew build you're talking about, where you've got the drop and gun, right, to sort of alpha strike one big target down, or some smaller number of targets down if you split fire, right? I don't buy it as a whole army. Is my point.
Sure, no,
I don't
I
buy the Stormcast gun line. I think that is a recipe for losing a lot of games. And by the way, in that article on Pitch Battle, they talked about using the realm rules to prevent gun lines. I'm like, guys, we don't need that. Like, I agree with you. If you're using realm rules, boy, oh boy, is that a kick in the teeth, because you will show up to fights where just your max range is nothing. Right? You just can't shoot. So good luck on that. If your realm rules are in play, take that out of the equation. I don't know what gun lines are doing anymore. Between, negative character sniping and prismatic palisades and 100 other things like that. Yeah. And the ability of so many people to get into you so fast.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just, this isn't
every book that's been released in the last year can get in at the top of one in the new edition.
Or darn close to it, right? Or at least
because of all the changes, all of them have the tools to get in.
My point is, it doesn't mean your whole army gets in. I'm clarifying what you're saying. Sure. There's a difference between putting a unit into the enemy and bringing your army into the enemy at the top of one.
Yeah. Right, but I'm saying getting a real hammer unit in.
Sure. So, know.
So Ballista, solid 6 out of 10.
So, yeah, sure. It's a fair rating. I don't, I would even maybe go 5. It's just, yeah.
Anyway.
It's fine.
Yeah.
All right, let's spin through the characters real quick here.
All right.
Martin, who would you like to touch on first? I don't want to take, we can't touch every character on every variant, because the Lord Arcanum can be mounted on 50.
I want to just talk about the Lord Arcanum as a whole.
Go for it.
Yeah, and I just wanted to, I've been saying this in my local groups. There is no ability on any one Lord Arcanum's War Scroll, excluding named characters, of course,
right,
which is as good as the ability to make Sequitors battle line. That is my opinion.
It's true.
So,
no, it's true.
I find myself in total agreement with that statement. Yes,
because
that is there. You don't see it written on the War Scroll, but it's there. Yeah, that's a great betting.
Yeah, and it's what they do. If they're in your army, that's what they're doing. Is they're making Sequitors battle line. Yep.
So, I mean, Stormcast overall, I almost want to. Maybe I'll need to find a better analogy over time, but I always compared them to Skaven in the old version of Warhammer, and how your characters are you're always going to have great, well-costed support characters. In no way are they ever going to be your combat butchers. So when we look at the Lord Arcanums, and we know that they're probably not going to be as good as the characters who are built to actually fight, they have a lot of support tech, but at the same time, usually, so a Lord Arcanum can be taken on foot, on a Celestial Dracoline, and on a Taurolon, and especially with the mountain, and on a Griff Charger. My apologies. And especially on the mounts, they have access to the most amount of special rules out of any other character in the game, in that if they are your general, they can take a command trait, they can take a mount trait, they can take an item, and if they are a wizard, which the Lord Arcanums are, you can take a spell. So that's 4 special things that you get to add on top of at a glance, at a bird's eye view. I don't want to say mediocre War Scrolls, but definitely balanced. So when you look at these War Scrolls, and you wonder why the price tends to be a little bit of a premium for them, it's because they're making Sequitor's battle line, and it's because they are they have access to all of this extra cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and they have really, I mean, for me, the money is when you look at, say, when you look at your Lord Arcanum on Griff Charger, who has this incredible ability to buff the other various units in different phases and achieve things, right?
Yeah.
For example, Tom's thing that he referenced earlier, your Lord Arcanum on Griff Charger can do, if you use his command ability in the combat phase, pick a unit of Sequitors, and they get to etheric channel both their weapons and their shields. Hey, reroll all hits and reroll all saves. Seems good on a unit of 20 Sequitors with,
potentially a 3+.
9 big weapons in there. Yeah, potentially very easily on a 3+. Yeah. Yep. So, like you can take that ride the winds etheric thing and throw it in the garbage for all I care.
Yeah. There are certain abilities, like depending on the list you build, that you may just outright ignore because it's either of no tactical use to you or it's just plain bad. And I think that was done on purpose for their balancing perspective, because they add utility to your army, no doubt. Are in no way are these units, if you wanted to make a final verdict on any of the Lord Arcanum variants, in no way are any of them bad, but you'll find aspects of them which you won't be able to take advantage of. Like the Lord Arcanum on Taralon has an ability where the Lord Arcanum can fly over units and then give +1 to hit to all Stormcast ranged attacks that target it. But you may find yourself with an army with him in it that doesn't have ranged weapons.
Right.
So it's the Lord Arcanum on Foot's spell, his command ability can take control of endless spells. But you may find yourself not playing any games, like especially in like a local club where no one uses endless spells because they just want to spend points on command points and more dudes. So
it lets him move it farther. He doesn't preempt the process,
right,
of moving the spells, which would be amazing if he did.
It would be. I mean, let's talk. To me, the things that matter across the Lord Arcanums, the reason I like them is 2 abilities that they all share, right? And that is this, which by the way, they're not the only one who has this ability, but
right.
the Spirit Flask and the Prime Electrids. So can we talk about?
Oh my God, Prime Electrids!
Why these are so good?
This gets into a little bit of the territory. Will Stormcast do play by their own rules?
Absolutely, it does. Yeah,
they're creating new categories of rules.
Yes, Arcane Bolt got weaker for everybody except Stormcast.
Yeah, because the Lord Arcanum uses old Arcane Bolt, but better, because his 10+ is a D6 mortals, right?
Yeah.
So it's always D3 goes up to a D6, which is pretty great. And especially in a world where everybody else's piddly Arcane Bolt is 1, or in a great case, D3. And then the Spirit Flask, the suicide bomb, right?
Yep.
Is pretty great because they can just shatter these flasks and blow mortal wounds around them. So that's pretty good. And make sure that you can get, like, they can go out with a blaze. I very much dig that ability.
Their healing ability is nowhere near as impressive as people wanted.
No.
I don't know if they intended that to happen when they were designing.
Yeah, like they're. Do you want to talk about how their healing ability works? Because there's probably some people who are confused.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Games Workshop has clarified it in the FAQ. They've clarified it on the stream today where they were talking about the FAQ review. But it's like, on paper, it looks amazing. Where it's like, if a Stormcast Eternals model dies within 18 inches of the Lord Arcanum, and it can't be the Lord Arcanum himself or herself, you may resurrect that Stormcast Eternal before their soul is returned to the heavens to be reforged, and you may bring that model back with 1 wound. However, because of how damage is applied in the game, you may only you can do that, but the damage that has yet to be applied to the model or unit continues to go through. So if you apply 10 damage to a 5-wound hero, they take 5 damage and die. They get revived with 1. The rest of the damage still carries over
and murders them.
Yes.
Yeah. So if they're on basically if somebody does just enough damage to kill a model, you can stop that model from dying that time.
And I guarantee you that I've done that to people with the Sequitors, where it's like, oh, they finally managed to kill one. Nah, now I'll bring it back with 1 wound.
Yeah.
And it aggravates people so much.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think they're all interesting. I agree with everything you said. I want to give a quick shout out to one other hero here, and that's the Knight Incantor.
Yes.
So why do
Roll
we
Caddy
like?
is back.
Yeah, that's right. Why do we like the Knight Incantor? Because he's got a dispel scroll. She's got a dispel scroll. There's a he and a she version of the model.
Yes.
Um,
Order now has access to 2 dispel scrolls.
Right. Yep. And this one's an ally to literally everybody. So everybody now has access to dispel scrolls.
Yes.
Yeah. So, that's a quite potent ability, to say the least. Obviously the model has to be attempting to unbind the spell to do it. So like they can't just, it's not a table wide thing or anything. It's not the corn, blood tithe ability or whatever.
Yeah,
but as long as you're within, as long as the Knight Incantor is within 30 inches, they can just say no. Right. Once per Knight Incantor, which is super powerful, especially if you're, oftentimes spell laden plans rely on one thing. Right. So shutting off that one very dangerous thing that's going to hurt you is pretty powerful. As has been pointed out, this is also a cheap vessel. I totally agree with this. Like, we're not going to touch on the Stormcast specific endless spells in this. But this is
not.
Well, I mean,
man,
quickly, but we can talk about it's the cheapest vessel for the Everblaze Comet. So,
which, by the way, that Everblaze Comet is hot.
It is good. It is good. It's super good.
It's
all right.
So good.
All right. In the essence of time, let's keep moving.
Yeah,
okay. So I think we've covered most of the Sacrosanct units. I want to talk about chamber rules.
Yes.
All right. Because I think that's also, obviously, we used to have these super mega crazy battalions, and they used to be the way we represented chambers, right? And now instead we have,
GW has developed new tech, and now they've applied it to Stormcast.
Right. So much like our, much like everything we've done recently, not everything, but much like has often been the case. Yes, we now have these. I was trying to think of I can never keep the names of all these things straight.
Temples,
there you go.
Skyports, and
the equivalent is
whatever the Deepkin things were.
Enclaves. Clans, maybe enclaves. There you go.
Yeah. There you go.
They're all the same.
Groups. Yes. The groups, the groupings.
What I've noticed is that the order books get these subfactions. The chaos books get your mono god combined. Then you get mortals and demons within that faction. The death gets legions, and destruction. We don't know what destruction gets.
Destruction gets nothing.
Night Haunt didn't get anything. Like the Night Haunt book is just straight.
Well, that's technically the Legion of Grief, though.
Yeah,
maybe, but they have their own allies list. They don't play by the rest of the rules. They don't get the rest of all the toys that the other legions get.
I'm just saying, it's like they have legions because they're dead. They don't have their own tribes within death, because that's the point.
Sure.
Like, they are a force of order, only it's their order, which is dominion over all death.
Sure. That's a really interesting point. I don't think that it clicked in my mind that the order armies are the ones that are getting these sub-factions, these things
to represent their individuality within the lore.
Very ordered individuality within the lore, because they break into these rigorous chambers. Whereas like the legions in death are just like, hey, it's a party, everybody in, whoever gets together, whatever this one guy in charge summons is who shows up to the party.
Yes. And another just similarity, especially with the Stormcast, is that they are very much like Space Marine chapter tactics.
Sure.
When you pick a Stormhost rule, your army gains that keyword. It does not have to be congruent with the color scheme of that chamber. You can fight in the fight in the fighting style of the Hammers of Sigmar. You can fight in the fighting style of the Astral Templars, and use the Astral Templars rules to best represent your army on the tabletop.
And balance-wise, they're painful. Like more so than any of the other order stuff. Like these divisions, like when you take a Stormhost in your force building, you feel it.
Because, we should say why. Because every one of these, so what happens when you take them, right, is you gain a special ability. The ability of the host. So, for example, the Hammers of Sigmar are classic golden boys themselves, back there since the beginning. You add 1 to the bravery characteristic of all your friendly Hammers of Sigmar units. Okay, great. You also get a command ability. So you gain this new command ability. So that's cool. And then you have a forced command trait. You don't get to select one anymore. That's just, this is what you have. And your first artifact is always decided, right?
And you have a forced artifact.
Yes.
Yeah. So unlike, so I compared to like daughters. Daughters would have one forced element. So they have a forced command trait or a forced item, and they always got flexibility with like a battalion. With these guys, there's only forced restrictions, but they also gain like basically one generic buff, and they're also gaining a command ability that all their heroes can use.
Yeah.
Yes. However, in some regards, they are balanced by the fact that, like, well, if your command ability isn't good in that given storm host, it's like, well, this is good instead. So, like, for example, my favorite, which is the Celestial Vindicators.
I can't imagine.
I know. hard to imagine. Well, some people may not actually know what I paint on the internet, so they may come as news to them. I gain a great static buff, which is the reroll ones to hit when they charge, and that just to me tells me, it's like, well, that just tells me what this army is meant to do. And then I see a command ability, which is just +1 attack to any unit, not any keyword, like not any Redeemer or Sacrosanct, any unit. That's Celestial Vindicators, but at the expense, I gain a mediocre command trait mediocre item and a terrible command trait, in my opinion. But that's the balance of it.
I disagree with that, but sure. I think Vindicators are one of the shining ones, but go ahead.
That command trait is hot garbage. Certainly you have to think that.
Yeah. Sure. Especially since it's probably going on a Lord Arcanum who you really don't want in combat.
Yeah. Sure. Look out for that guy. He'll whack you real hard with his stick. That old man's got a stick.
It might be a Ren 3 stick.
It could be. So like
they as a whole, I think, are well designed. I was really surprised with
somebody.
Go ahead. Yeah. Then I was worried that like sometimes the Enclave rules or like how they've done things in the past can tend to pigeonhole you into certain builds, in that certain storm hosts stand out far more than others, or taking a storm host would have been vastly superior to not. And I think the balancing act was done well overall, because they still have command traits from the previous books, sometimes changed, sometimes not, which are still very attractive to take. You don't have to go with a storm host, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. So let's go around here and talk. You said yours.
I will say.
Hold on.
Can I kind of jump in? Okay.
I want to finish up because I want us to all talk about our favorite a little. You like the Vindicators, and obviously their basic ability is they all get to reroll hit rolls of 1, right? If they charge.
Yes.
Great for things like your evos on kitty cats, makes them even better. The command ability, as you mentioned, is brutally powerful when placed on an aggressive army, where you're picking because coming out of the general, it has to be wholly within, but it's wholly within 18 inches. So you got a pretty big bubble there.
Yes.
Right. And
just to note that it's given out in the combat phase, meaning that you have all of the time in the world to position yourself properly to give out that buff when it comes time. You don't have to make all of those decisions in the hero phase and then move your guys. So it's a lot more forgiving on positioning, which I think is you really need to take advantage of that.
Yep. To me, their command trait and their artifact are pretty much just forgettable. But those two abilities alone, actually, like if what you're wanting is that hard hitting, aggressive Stormcast army, probably based around like evos on kitty cats, this is a wonderful pairing for them. So like I can see why you're attracted to that, Martin, because I dig it. It makes those guys so brutal.
It's fortunate that those are also the ones that he already had painted.
Yes. Yeah. It is very fortunate that the army that I spent by the time the book came out, a year and a half painting. I was fingers crossed. Please don't be bad. Please don't be bad. Oh, they're amazing. And that item has actually surprised a few people already. The item is at any and you can activate it. I believe it's the beginning of any combat phase. you may choose to may choose to activate the item, and that is +2 attacks, -1 save. If someone has like a majority of the Stormcast heroes, like your bog standard Stormcast hero is 5 wounds, 3 up save, probably 3 or 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, Ren 1 damage too. Just like across the average of all the Stormcast characters, which means that they are a mid-range infantry support hero. And if they get charged, if they're on an objective and they get charged, like maybe say late game or mid game by like some chaff unit, and then you surprise people by like maybe even activating the command ability, like I did that, and I ended up with the Lord Castellan with 6 attacks, 3s and 3s, Ren 1 damage too. So it's like just good night, people. Yeah. So it has its uses. That's why I said it was an okay item and just a bad command trait. But I think that's the give and take. Like if we wanted to look at another storm host, say what Tom's favorite storm host, I'm sure we would find similar give and take with the items. Yeah.
Let's look at another one. Tom, what's your pick?
So fortunate for me as well, that what I'd actually started painting up my guys is my favorite. And that's the Hollowed Knights. It's funny. There's definitely a loser here, and it's my command trait as well. So for the generic ability that they pass out, all the units on the table, whenever they're affected by a spell or an endless spell, you roll a dice on a 6+, you ignore the effects of that spell. So this is not like ignore the damage. This is ignore everything about the spell. So like that banishment, all of your units have a 6+ to resist banishment. As Vince learned, your Gryph-hounds have a 6+ to resist Arcane Bolt. Fuck you, bark bark.
Yes, that is correct. He had a Gryph-hound on 1 wound holding something, and I Arcane Bolted the stupid Gryph-hound with Archaon. And he rolled the 6, which was like the funniest thing. Just runs away. The stupid dog runs away.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Yep.
And
there you go.
6+ spell immunity on the whole army. And what I like about this, like I know that there's like a after save on hammers. What I love about this is like there's no range. It's just a blanket 6+ on everybody.
Right.
And with magic flying around and mortal wounds being a weakness, it's a great Benny. Being able to like shake all the debuffs on Nagash's stuff, like having a chance to shake those like -1 or like the double tap spell, having ability to shake some of those hit debuffs from Nagash's spell onslaught is a big deal, is what I would say.
And the Tzeentch like fire hose of mortal wounds.
Yep,
that's still going to be a thing. Don't think that that's gone away just because Tzeentch you can't run Change Host anymore at 2K.
Oh, no, it's still certainly going to be a thing. Yeah.
So what I would say is that so that's the generic 6+. I love that about Hollowed Knights. But even more so, I think I love their command ability. Now this is unlike a lot of the other ones. This is one that's a little bit more restricted, and I feel how painful this is. Like it triggers at the beginning of the hero phase instead of the beginning of the movement phase, which really makes me sad. But when it triggers, you just select a unit wholly within 9 of a hero or 18 of your general. That unit gains +1 to run and charge, and they can run and charge in the same turn. And so it just adds just an extra little touch of mobility that is just so useful. And like I think about like this obviously pairs well with Cogs, which is adding +2 to run and charge. So when that's active, you're basically at +3 to run and charge, which is really, or I'm sorry, you're +2 to move, +3 to run. I don't know, it's +2 to move, +2 to charge, and +2 to move, 2 to run, 3 to charge. Sorry.
Wow, that was fun to watch you put that together. It really was.
Yeah, I know. Oh no, I'm wrong again. It's 2 to move, 3 to run, 3 to charge.
You're killing me. Yes.
Get a chalkboard.
Seriously, we're gonna have to grid this out.
For all of
Get out the Excel spreadsheet. Okay,
but
go.
I mean, like that turns it on though. Like so, like that ability just to just haul ass across a battlefield.
Mhm.
I think about like that evoker, that 5-inch move, like evoker unit. If you had 2 points standing, you could like auto 6 run them and hit them with this. And suddenly, like on a charge, like they're gonna haul ass like 11
They'll cover an average
inches,
of like, well, they cover
16 inches plus a charge, a 2d6 plus 3 charge.
Sure.
Yeah, the Hallowed Knight's abilities certainly allow for the creation of a more adaptable army list than perhaps the Celestial Vindicators, one could argue, because those abilities help your whole army a lot more than the Vindicators ones. The Vindicators, just comparing the two Stormhosts, Vindicators is like all combat all the time. We're going to get in there, we're going to pile in, and we're just going to smash. And the abilities reward that, where the Hallowed Knight's abilities certainly award both mobility and defensive buffs. So it creates room for I don't want to say a more balanced army list, as I would say.
The champion or the command trait is terrible if your general's slain in the hero phase, or in the combat phase. Sorry, so your general has to die in the combat phase. If he does, then you have to roll a dice. If you roll a 2+, then he can pile in an attack with his melee weapons before being removed.
It's fluffy.
Now, that said, I still murdered a warlord.
Sure.
Before he skittered away. The one time when I did run this against Vince, like I used it. Like, as terrible as I'm saying, like I used it and it worked. Like I killed the thing that was killing me.
Yeah, I mean your guy still died, so consolation prize, but yes.
Yep. And then finally the item is basically the Phoenix Stone. Like in the hero phase, you heal wound on whoever is wearing it. And I like that. But it's only your hero phase, so actually it's half as effective as the Phoenix Stone.
Yeah, it's half a Phoenix Stone, yeah. Yeah,
it's half Phoenix Stone. It's not bad. Like I don't mind putting that on somebody so that like splash mortal wounds has it has a chance to catch up.
Yep. So the one I want to call out, like there's the Hammers of Sigmar discussion is a whole separate discussion right now because it's kind of skewed by the presence of like Vandus and Gavriel Sherhart and people like that, like the special characters all belonging in it. So I kind of want to stay away from that because there's a whole other discussion there of like, should those command abilities have been restricted as well? And will they be? And what does the special character thing mean? Like, it's just, it would require a good half hour of discussion. Right?
Wait, say that again. You don't want to touch upon hammers?
Yeah, just because hammers themselves unpacks. You can't talk about them without talking about Vandus and Gavriel Sherhart and all the Hammers of Sigmar special characters.
Well, right? Yeah. So to say it this way, hammers, much like Lord Arcanums, are generic and fluffy when you like. They're just like whatever, it's okay. But you can't look at that without knowing that by taking that, you're going to calculate in all this other utility. And the same thing with the Lord Arcanums.
Right.
Yes.
Yep. And there's just so much to unpack from that, like Gavriel Sherhart's stackable bonus to charge where he can just make 9-inch drops from the heavens automatic. Vandus's ability where he can just stack these huge attack bonuses and just like +1/+1/+1/+1, and just like everybody around him goes beast mode instantaneously. So like there's
it's a thing.
Sure. And like I don't know that stuff's not going to get changed at some point. Like we had our general FAQ, but we haven't had like the Stormcast book FAQ. So
yes,
they
we
can
have.
always.
It was all rolled into one.
I am not sure that we're not going to. I understand that. I'm not. You're telling me you're not sure that there's not another FAQ that rolls out at some point here that changes that?
Oh, yeah. In February.
Yeah, but I think it's on its own. I'm sorry. That's semantics, though, then.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Like, my point is that it did all get rolled into one. I don't know what's going to change. There's a lot to unpack there. Those guys skew the estimation of hammers.
Yeah.
Either way.
Because there are, I don't even count, but like 6 or 7 named characters, including the Shadespire units, for Hammers of Sigmar, and the others have none. There's room for more, and who knows, we could get more with new narrative campaigns and whatnot, especially with all of the new books that are coming out with like persistent named characters, like they keep coming back for multiple installments, which may get miniatures.
Yeah, I don't know why we didn't get like Torlug or whatever his name, the Redeemed. Yeah. The dude who was he was a
the Nurgle.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
he
a
was-
Nurgle guy who died and redeemed himself.
He was the Lord of Plagues that got hit in the face by Galmaraz and repented his sins.
Yep.
So
good.
yeah, we may get that at some point. There's
Right.
certainly room for it. But right now, talking about the Hammers of Sigmar opens you up to these characters, including characters which receive unique sculpts. Like there are kits out there which are just named characters for Hammers of Sigmar.
Right, exactly. So there's just too much to unpack there. We don't have the time to get into it deep. I'll just say that, like, I think GW should be watching that very closely because a couple of those guys have the power to be skewing to the overall scene.
Yep.
Right. So there we go. I actually wanted to highlight Tempest Lords real quick because I think Tempest Lords are fun. I think they're kind of
the point masters.
Yeah, it's cool. They're just a cool chamber. I don't hear a lot of people talking about Tempest Lords. Maybe it's just me. But like, I don't mean like, I just mean like before this, like I didn't hear a lot of people painting their chamber like Tempest Lords. And I think they're pretty cool. I like their colors. But yeah, so like their ability is at the start of your hero phase, you roll a die, and on a 4-up, you receive an extra command point, meaning that over the span of a game, on average, you receive either 2 or 3 additional command points, right? Assuming you roll sort of averages, which is cool. And then in addition, and like their actual command ability is okay. It's okay. You can reroll wound rolls of 1 for a unit. Woo. And like the command trait for the Lord is okay. He can, add 1 to his wound rolls if he's within 6 inches of anybody else. That's fine. Depending on who your general is, that could be pretty good, I guess, if you've got like a big stompy melee boss. But there are
not really in Stormcast.
Well, I mean, I don't know that, like,
Dragon.
maybe your Lord on Star Drake. He feels pretty stompy.
No, but it doesn't matter because that's a mount, and command traits don't affect mounts.
No, but it affects him. He's
but he's like 3 attacks for it. I mean, he's not.
Anyway,
I started by saying it's okay.
yeah, sure.
Right. But the artifact of power is then if you're on the battlefield, each time you spend a command point, you roll a die. On a 5-up, you receive 1 extra command point. So you effectively get it refunded, right? And then obviously, if you were in a position where you had 2 artifacts, right, you could be from highish and take the Aether Quartz brooch as well.
Yep.
Right. So you on a 4-up, you're getting an extra command point every turn. And then every time you spend 1, you roll 2 dice. And if either of them are 5+, you're getting a command point. Right.
Do you still refund 2 command points every time? Like,
yeah.
You roll 2 5s.
It doesn't give it to. Yes, because neither of them say you get this one back. It just says on a 5+, you receive 1 extra command point. That's the exact.
So spending command points, you could actually net gain command points.
That is correct. With this, so as long as you have
but
2
then you're
artifacts.
blowing items on netting command points.
But look, I don't know that there's. First of all, given some of the command abilities in Stormcast, I don't know that that's not a winning strategy to be able to go hog wild, rerolling charges, covering any unit's butt you need to, and still blowing
double
all the
buff
command abilities
like,
you want.
You can do all your Lore Arcanums and double buff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not bad.
So I think it's pretty. I thought about that with the Aether Quartz brooch, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Because yes, you could spend 1 and gain 2. Oh, neat. Net gain. So like there we go. Sorry, I sat on my mute button. I thought that was kind of cool. I thought that was a fun thing because Stormcast are not wanting for command abilities. There are armies out there that you're like, man, I wish I had more choice for command abilities. These guys, it's like, man, I wish I had less choice for command abilities.
Yeah, an honorable mention I want to send out to the Celestial Warbringers. So I was attempting to build a spellcaster storm. Like I wanted to see what spellcasting could do for a Stormcast army. And so I gravitated obviously to the Warbringers for that if I wanted to do that. And I noticed, like they can, like add a +1 casting for a unit or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's okay, whatever. But it's funny is that like I started like actually read their like ability again. And the fact that they actually get to redeploy a D3 units could be really helpful. Like really helpful. Because like one of the challenges is going to be deploying in the heavens. Like you can do that, but only half your units can. And so, like, for lining up those initial charges, this might give you the jump, like putting your battle cats on one side, flipping them to the other for that first charge. So, anyways, it was a neat ability that I haven't seen anybody talking about, and I've seen how effective redeployment is for Caradron Overlords.
Sure, because you can pick them up and put them into the sky or whatever.
Yeah. Like if you want, you can
assuming you haven't hit your max sky units.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. No, it's cool. I like that one too. I thought that was kind of interesting. It's fairly random. You could easily get one, because a D3.
Yep. And then you're just, as bad as Zilfin.
So it's like, it had a lot of potential. I just wasn't sure what to feel about it. But those kind of like very finesse situational ones are really interesting because they rely on your ability to read the scenario and the enemy army and really understand the nuance of how small moves can lever big changes, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. I thought that one was cool too. I dug that. I like tricksy redeploy things. I always have. So yeah, good shout out. All right. So very quickly, we do not have enough time to cover every battalion. Good God Almighty.
Well, let's do 3. Let's do 3.
Can we, if I just may say as an overview to people just coming back to Stormcast after a long time,
yes,
a lot of the battalions which have dominated for years and years, and this was one of the critiques as I was running or helping to run an event in New Jersey called Triumph, where I believe 6 of the 8 Stormcast Eternals players had the same battalion in their army, just in different varieties of Vanguard Wing. So battalions which have been within the lexicon of Stormcast have all changed. They are not what they used to be. Whether they small changes or dramatic changes, you will have to read all of the battalions again to see what they do. You can't just say, well, I'll take Vanguard Wing or I'll take Hammer Strike Force again. They are different.
Everything's been trimmed down to one ability.
Yeah.
All the normal battalions. There are still these sort of like, big chamber battalions that exist. They're
for mega battles
or whatever. Your mega battalions, but they're big, like so big. Dear Lord, they're big. Anyways, so we're just going to talk about like the battalions, classic sense battalions. So yeah, I want to go through them. I don't want to not touch on them. I want to just talk about our favorites. So Martin, go ahead, buddy. What's your favorite battalion? What's your hot pick out of here?
I am going to steal Tom's thunder because I know Tom's wants to.
It's the one that we all want to talk about.
Yeah. So one that has been coming up in a lot of recent lists is called the Cleansing Phalanx. Now, originally, I was like, when I've been running Stormcast, I didn't want to take any battalions. So I was like, well, with the way the game is designed now, it's like you really want to have access to command points. So I wanted an army where it would allow me access to that, either playing points down or having battalion. Anyway, so Cleansing Phalanx requires you to have 2 units of Sequitors, which is great because I already wanted to have Sequitors in my army, and 2 units of Evocators because Evocators is in bold.
Evocators,
yes. It's like, oh, cool. I also wanted those in my army. That's a low bar threshold. Okay. And it allows you to effectively do what the Lord Arcanum on Griff Charger or Australia does, in that if the Evocators cast Empower on the Sequitors and it is not unbound, it allows them to automatically do their channeling, in that they may reroll both not only wounds from the spell of Empower, but also reroll failed hits. But because that doesn't count as the channeling, when it comes to the combat phase, you may take the Sequitors to rerolling failed saves. So the Sequitors may reroll failed hits, failed wounds, and failed saves, making them a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, what I would highlight is that it turns on those rerolls. Might be a better way to say that.
Yes, it turns on the rerolls
because it's so huge. It's so huge what that does. It's a really good ability.
Yeah, that was a standout for me. So I plan to be using the Evocators, which have the mobility to not only move themselves into combat and across the table, but also have great range on their spells to be buffing the Sequitors units, which will probably be within range at all times. I mean, you can certainly get away with having the foot Evocators in there as well with certain builds, because I definitely foresee this coming up in Sacrosanct armies a lot.
Yeah, Vince and I cracked the code on this list earlier today.
We were playing. I don't know. I don't know if I go that far, but we certainly genned a list I love and think is good. But yeah, there you go. Okay. For not needing to include Gav or Vandus, I liked the list a lot. All right, Tommy, what about you, man? Do you have another pick? Do you have anything else you want to go to?
Yeah, I mean, like I'll do one honorable. Like I want to do an honorable mention, and I've already mentioned it. I'll mention that briefly, and then I want to talk about like a missed opportunity.
Okay, that's fine.
So my honorable mention is the where'd my battalions go? I've already mentioned it before, but it's the Soul Strike Brotherhood. It's 2 units of Vanguard Hunteries, 2 units of Castigators, and a Cell-Star Ballista. And basically, if the Vanguard Hunters are on the table at the start of a turn, and you drop out of the heavens one of the Sacrosanct units, either the Castigators or the Ballista from the battalion, and you set it up on the battlefield for the first time, you add 1 to the attacks characteristic of the missile weapons used by that Sacrosanct unit. This basically lets you double the attacks of the Castigators or the Ballista at long range, or just +1 to attack for the Ballista at short range. I think the tactic people have been talking about like taking Nagash off with like a couple Ballistas is and like an Ordinator drop from the heavens. It doesn't take him off. It does like 5 to 6 wounds.
Right. It's just not enough.
So it's just not enough.
You run the math on that. It does not work.
That said, a unit of Castigators drop from the heavens with this battalion, like a max unit of Castigators, so 480 points, backed up with a little bit of buffing, could put Nagash on the ground. So that is an answer, but that's a quarter of your army.
Sure.
Where basically you're putting a quarter of your army onto the table, teleporting it down, and putting a bunch of shooting in. And you're only going to basically get that once with that one unit. So, I mean, and then that unit is okay from there on out. 18 shots at 3s and 3s and 2 rend. So, yeah. So it's like it's not awesome. It's not terrible, but it is an answer if people are looking for an answer to Nagash potentially. But you don't have a lot more of it. Yeah. Say what?
That isn't Dracolines.
Yeah, that isn't Dracolines, yes. But like Dracolines, you need to fight through the skeletons, and by that time, you're not going to have any Dracolines left.
Not necessarily, but that's a nuanced strategy discussion, not an overview of the army discussion.
Indeed. And then the one missed opportunity is the Grand Convocation. Man, I really wanted to run some spellcasty wizards. You know, like Stormcast, like Wizard, and and I was like, Lord Arcanum, Lord Exorcist, 2 Knights and Cantor, like, sure. And like the Lord Exorcist is attacks there, and I was like, okay.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about the Lord Exorcist because he's bad.
Because he wasn't worth talking about. Yes. That's why we skipped him. But yes,
like he's like his spell is not good. I mean, it's not bad. It's just and he does like auto damage sometimes to a couple narrow units, and he's a 1 spell per cat. He's 140. Like if he was 120 or 100 points, I probably would have bought him. But at 140, yeah. Like I would buy him at probably 100. I wouldn't feel bad about spending 120 on him. I feel bad about spending 120 on him.
Yeah. But anyway, so the missed opportunity is like the 40k Space Marine like Librarian Covenant. But it's like you have all of your Stormcast wizards in one spot, and they get what's the bonus? An extra spell?
No, not even that. It's +1 to cast. And one wizard has to have 2 other wizards within 9 inches. So they all have to be within like spitting range of each other.
Right.
And so the missed opportunity, like if it was just +1 to cast for the wizards in the battalion.
If it was just everybody in this battalion gets +1 to cast. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'd have been like, okay, like I would probably run it. But because this like locks you into a very tight formation, it's just not it's not viable. Like it's not a viable, because all these are like premium cost units at 140 and more. Like it's just, I was disappointed. I was really hoping that it would be runnable, but it's just not.
Yep. Yeah, that's okay.
All right, so I've got 2
And it's not even unbind too. It's just cast.
It's cast. Yeah. Yep. No, I know. I agree. I agree with everything you said. Mine is going to be a similar tale, actually. The two I want to highlight are two that I want to love that are bad. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But I want to love them. Like in concept, I love everything about them. And then in execution, they don't meet the mark. All right.
Yep.
So first I want to talk about the Hailstorm Battery. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Which is one Lordinator, one Castigator unit, and one Ballista. And notably, it's locked at 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of those. Now this is a 120-point battalion, right? And its ability isn't that bad. Like you can reroll hit rolls for attacks made by the Ballista if the unit of Castigators inflicted at least 1 wound on the same target that turn.
Well, yeah.
The problem with that is 1 Ballista, 1 Castigators, 1 Ordinator. Like really? No 1 to 3 on any of those or something? You know what I mean? Like that's an awful lot of work to get 1 fairly reliable Ballista, right? Like, yeah, those Castigators can probably put a wound through on something, but they're not very good as it is. But like if
they're short range.
And they're short range, sure. But like if it was like 1 to 4 Ballista, so you know it was like sort of my max artillery or whatever.
Yeah, and 1 to 3 units of Castigators. Because by the way, they're not battle line, so it doesn't like you're still having to fill this out with other stuff.
Sure, or even 1 to 2, right? Like it's just literally. Then cool. It would give me some ability. Like that's a heck of an investment to get. That is a heck of an investment to get 1 reroll beyond 18 inches. Right? That's what it is. Like, as if you're firing the Ballista over 18 inches, you get 1 shot. Yeah?
Yeah.
That's a heck of a lot of work to reroll 1 3+. Like,
yeah.
Okay. Or realistically, 1 2+ if the Ordinator is standing around the freaking Ballista. Okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, like I want to love the ability. I love the idea of having a battalion that's kind of like the artillery unit, if you will, battalion, right? That's kind of the idea of it. But it doesn't have enough. There's no universe where that's worth it because of those limitations of 1.
Right. Okay? Right.
All right.
It's just a missed opportunity.
Yeah. So now I want to swing this around to a completely wacky direction. Okay. And I want to talk about one that makes me really sad. Yep. And that is the Drake Sworn Temple. Okay.
Yeah.
So the Drake Sworn Temple, for those of you who are uninitiated, is a battalion that's 140 points. Okay. So go on. All right. What am I getting for this 140 points? Well, I hear you ask. The answer to that is you have to take 3 Drake Sworn Templars, not the Lord Celestin dude on Star Drake, the Drake Sworn Templar, the other guy that we've that's never seen a table.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
No, that's not true. Ben Johnson took this battalion to a tournament one time.
Oh, he did. That's right. Good on him, man. So these guys are
two generals handbooks ago.
So these guys are these guys are 460 points, right?
Okay. Yeah, they're worth it now. Like on their own. Like if you want a Drake Sworn Templar, now they're more competitively priced than ever before. Sure. But in this battalion.
So what are we in for? We're in for 3 times 460 points, right? So 1380. Now 1520 with the battalion. So I have chewed up 75% of my army, right? Yep. What is the amazing ability that I get now that I have gone this far into this? All right. Once per battle. Not a good start. Right off the rip. I don't like what you said, but I'll keep reading because certain things once per battle, if they're big enough, could be, cool.
Yeah. If they can change the game, go on.
Sure. In your hero phase. All right. Well, remember that it's going to be important later. Okay. You can summon a celestial wave. If you do so, each unit within 3 inches in Current combat with any models from this battalion, i.e. the 3 Drakesworn Templars. Okay. Get caught in this celestial wave and suffer D3 mortal wounds. Now,
taste that yummy goodness.
Taste the golden spray. So if you happen to have Stormcast Eternal units in the wave, i.e. your Drakesworn Templars or, anybody else who's near them, you heal D3 wounds. Okay. I hate this for so many. Like
all the dragons heal a D3.
Yeah, and anybody else who 1D3. Yeah, each Drakesworn pulses a D3 onto each unit.
Okay.
So like if they happen to get into like 5 units, sure, they each suffer a D3. Okay. But it's only 3 inches. Once per game. It's only 3 inches. And the problem is, let's return back to that in your hero phase thing.
Yeah.
Right? Because that means you had to have this set up from like the last turn. Right. And now,
assuming you double turned him or something.
Right. You've moved the chess pieces and lured your opponent into this brilliant plan. And then all of a sudden you will do the mighty damage of 3d3 mortal wounds. Right.
No. You don't get it for each one.
It's every unit near with the wave. Yes. If you do so, each unit within 3 inches of any models from this battalion.
Right. So it's not 3d3. It's
I meant in
3
in toto. I'm rolling. I'm assuming they're separate, not together.
Right.
Okay. Sorry. In my head, I had like, I probably like in my head there was
3 separate combats on the table in which a Drakesworn Templar is in combat with an enemy unit, 1 or more.
Yeah, it's kind of like what the Blight Kings do on a 6+ every round, every hero phase.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah. Like in my head, I was picturing like a Drake over here, a Drake over here, and a Drake over here. And they were all fighting. And then they went, bah! And they exploded their crippling D3 mortal wounds. And the tide was turned. So yeah, that's terrible. Straight up terrible. I love big monster battalions. Come on now, guys. Come on now. What is that? What is
Give me a reason.
That? Like, I'll go buy 3 Star Drake kits and make this my army. If this would have been a sweet battalion, I would have been in the store building this army. This is give me a reason to need 7 models in my army or whatever. Like, I'm in. You had me, right? Like, cool. Let's say like 15 Liberators and these guys, and I'm done. Done and dusted, man. I would have built this army. But no, that's not inspiring. It's not, I can't do it. I can't do it, guys. I don't know that I'm really working blue. Did I curse it all there? I don't think I did. Somebody said I'm working blue tonight. I don't know. All right. So, okay. Let's, we need to wrap this up. We've gone long, as I knew we would. So let's wrap it up now and talk about, let's just do a quick best and worst sort of items or anything like that, artifacts, items, whatever you want to say. Let's kind of, because there's a lot. Stormcast have just so many stupid items. They're just,
all of the stuff.
They're just everywhere. Yeah, they're just everywhere. So, Martin, what do you like?
So for a best item, it's kind of hard because you're gonna have
Not overall best, just things you like. Pick one.
Things I liked. I like the Mindlock staff, even though it's a trap.
Yeah.
Even though it's a trap, it's a trap.
It's not.
Yeah, it is. You have to be within 12. So,
send in that Lord Arcanum Dracoline in, baby. Come on, they got I'm coming for you.
Yeah, once per game in the hero phase, pick an enemy wizard within 12 inches, and once you do, that enemy wizard cannot cast or unbind, or is it just cast spells?
Just can't cast spells.
Can't cast spells. And I was talking about this item with friends in my club, and maybe it's because the person who I know uses Nagash. He uses Nagash and Vordry to just get in people's faces consistently. So it's the chances oh no, Nagash can't cast spells next turn. I'm just gonna charge you and kill you instead with the sword. And so I think I think it has interesting potential overall, but I don't think it's a counter to Nagash because you have to be within 12 of Nagash, and you better be ready to kill Nagash if he's within 12.
Well, if I'm
Not
coming
just
in
make-
with 6 Dracolines and my Lord Arcanamon Dracoline, we're coming for you, Nagash.
Yeah,
And
but then you don't need to make him not cast spells because you're gonna just kill him in combat anyway.
Well, you have to grind. The key with this, what this allows you to do, is to grind through his blocking unit and have that turn to grind through them, and then get into him the next turn, shut him down for that turn that he would cast on you while you're grinding. Yeah.
Okay.
Like I agree, Martin. I like Mind Lock was going to be my pick. Like I don't think that this is the answer, like the catch all, but I really like this item because it does this out of the box thing, and it's disproportionately crippling for some armies.
Right. I think it's just fun because you're going like if you're playing like I don't know, a pickup game at like your local store, like you're going to use this item and it's going to be very silly and just like make someone just like grind their teeth in consternation for a turn. Because like it's not always going to get used in the gash. It's going to get used on other stuff, and there's going to be other situations where it's just going to be funny, in my opinion. Because it just leads to one of those things that doesn't happen often. And then a worst item would probably be the fact that there's a sword which gives you +1 rend, and yet there's a sword that thanks Gary because I had completely missed this. In the realm of metal, there's a sword which just makes you rend 3.
Yeah, there's 2 of them.
Metal, there's 2 of them.
Yeah, metal and what Ugu has the other one, I think. Yeah. There's 2 rend 3 swords in the book. Yes, like all that like up 1 rend crap out of here. Hit the bricks, guys. You're done.
Yeah.
3 rend. I mean, there's a bunch of crap in here. It's funny how many of these items are completely duplicative with the realm artifacts because like there's a bunch of items in here that are like neg 1 to be hit in this case, like against these type of weapons, or if you do this thing, hit the bricks, guys. Okay, Griff Feather Charm says, "Get the heck out of here! I'm gonna get neg 1 to hit all the time and +1 move." You know, like,
and that's just the consequence of them making like, well, we wanted to give players access to all of these items, which include armies which already have access to their own battle tome items. So some armies are going to find like some items useless because there's now just over 150 of them now, just in the realm items alone.
No, it's 12 per realm times 7, 84.
84. Okay, it's still a lot.
There's 8 good ones.
Yeah,
but that's enough.
Yeah,
there are 8 good ones in that book. 8 is enough.
Yes.
Okay. I think that was the name of the show. It's fine. It's plenty.
Okay.
Because there's like there's one really good one for defense, one really good one for offense, one really good one for purpose A, B, C, and then there's there are 4 that are like situationally, if you happen to be in an army where you can build a cheater combo with it, are also good, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So there's going to be some losers just based on sheer redundancy or power creep within all of the choices you have access to as a player of Age of Sigmar.
Sure. And yeah, I mean, as has been pointed out, if you choose one of the named chambers, it's going to divide your artifact for you unless you have take your artifact for you, unless you have a battalion.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. Isn't everybody going to have? Yeah. Isn't everybody going to have cleansing phalanx? I don't know.
Right. Well, you may not necessarily pick a storm host.
Sure. Yeah. I know there's plenty of people who've talked about still not taking the storm host, so they can get access to things like, so you can get access to some of the, Staunch Defender and Mirror Shield, which are still around, like.
The Mirror Shield is entirely unchanged.
Yeah, like these things still exist.
But value really low now.
Sure.
Like shooting, it's not that many shooting attacks left. Staunch Defender did change, right? Because you have to be wholly within 9 inches of the the general. Yeah. So I mean, that's a big difference. You can't bubble that out near as far. But sure.
Still hold an objective with it.
Yes.
And yes, Velatron, Ignax's Scales is one of the good items. that's the like 4 up against mortal wounds. Yes, that's one of the that's one of the 8 good ones. Yes. Correct.
Alongside the cloak that's in Akshi as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Those are my picks.
Cool. No, I mean I think that's right. There's a couple other like Tom, do you have any other ones you wanted to shout out?
No, like whatever. Like there's some neat ones that I would want to play around with. I think about like So I think that there's a really interesting like splash mortal wounds army in here.
Okay.
Like, you know how we were talking about, Vince, about
the ability to just kind of just sort of poop around mortal wounds on everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, in like very large areas.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there might be something here, a similar list in Stormcast.
Using the Prime and like the Storm Scroll and stuff like that, I assume.
Like the Prime, the Storm Scroll, the one bad spell that I used on the double player.
Oh yeah, the giant lightning bolt dropper thing, the storm where you roll.
Like the Storm Collar where everything you roll for all the units on the table. The dragon breathes, chooses a point, and like so. There's a number of these like mortal wound splash, and there's an item here that like you choose 6 units, roll dice, whatever dice corresponds to one of those 6, they take a d6 mortal wounds the unit does. So like there's a number of like just indiscriminate splashing mortal wound stuff here that there might be something like I could see some situational things where I might take an item like that.
If you want to take multiple Vexillors to do the same thing. Like a friend of mine in the New York City club, he was like talking about. Granted, it was only 84 wounds in the army list overall, but it's like everything that can do mortal wounds at range or range the table. You put it in the army.
Yep. And the Vexillor, his other banner that nobody takes, can do that. Can splash mortals. Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, there's probably an interesting thing there. I don't know how super competitive is, but it's interesting, right? So
yep.
Yeah, there's probably some.
There's a good description.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of what I'll say is that, as should be abundantly obvious, we said this with Nurgle, we said this with Legions, we said this with Daughters, we've said this so many times. There are, and this one is perhaps the penultimate example of it, frankly. There are so many different potential builds out of here. I'll ignore the weird skews of the couple named Hammers and Sigmar dudes for a minute. There is still so many potential builds out of this Stormcast that like, it's going to take people a while to really fully unlock kind of everything and every different build you could get out of this, right? So, yep. All right, and I think that's going to be my summation. Martin, any final thoughts as we wrap up here?
I think that the Stormhost rules are really good game design by them, because I felt like there was opportunity there for them to mess up more likely than not. That was just my fear going into it, based on how long I had been playing 40K, like 40K Space Marines, where it's like there were going to be easy choices or choices that you'll just never see, and so on. And I think that they were all well balanced in their design.
Yep. One quick thing I want to say as we bring the show to a close is please leave a comment below if you've been freaked out by every time you look at Martin, you notice that creepy chick staring at him over his shoulder the entire show. I've literally waited 2.5 hours to comment on this. But
should I have not put it in the shot? I'm sorry.
No, I love it. It's awesome. She's been staring at you, just creeping, yo. Just creeping on you.
We should have done the Night Haunt show with him. With that thing staring over.
I noticed it the second you joined, and she's just been sitting there like, "What's up?" Just creeping on you the whole time. So it's made me laugh.
Watching me paint Stormcast, taking notes.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Martin, buddy, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
We look forward to seeing all the models you paint up as you bring your Sacrosanct chamber to full life. I look forward to seeing your amazing, sort of board you're working on and everything. And
Nova.
That's right. And I will see you at Nova. Hopefully we'll see you too. But if we don't, as always, we appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next Wednesday.